I'm Colton.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Caden.
This is our LitCast on the freedom assessment.
First topic we're going to talk about is who was Frederick Douglass?
Frederick Douglass was an escaped slave who became a prominent activist. He became an author and a public speaker.
I think he was like a good person in society because he was one of the people that led to the abolishment of slavery, and he really shows us what it was like. And yeah,
that's true. He had a huge impact on the slavery because he went through that and he knew what happened, and he's just a powerful speaker.
According to Emerson, what is genius?
I think Emerson, when he's trying to describe genius, I think he's talking about a person who trusts their own ideas, and I think he just is talking about they trust themselves even whether or not they heard other people echoing, the same thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing is that someone who trusts their own ideas and believes in themselves is considered genius to him, because a genius can be super smart, but they don't trust what they think. They're not a genius because they will never believe in themselves and actually do what they think.
I think he just didn't care what anyone else thought, and after wrote what he went on and believed that was the best he could do. So that's why says he's a genius.
Yeah. According to Emerson, how does society affect people's values?
Emerson thinks society is like a joint stock company. That is a conspiracy against the individual. He thinks society's main purpose is to suppress individually. Society everywhere is in a conspiracy against the manhood of everyone of its members. This basically means he thinks society is doesn't believe in each other, and one person will think something but won't say it because he'll doesn't want to. His neighbor will probably make fun of him, and he doesn't want to get made fun of.
Yeah, I think that too, and it's just about at that time everyone only cared about themselves, and because of that society wasn't as great as it could have been.
Nobody worried about anybody else. It was just themselves. So
right, in our society we have everyone trying to because of social media and all that.
Yeah,
it's hard for
it's a lot
trying to be
different than
like
it
other
was.
people.
No one wants to
themselves
be true
anymore.
to themselves, and it's just everyone's kind of fake.
That was a good thing that Emerson had though, because he didn't care what anyone else thought about him or.
No, yeah, that's a great trait to have because you'll get more stuff done if you don't care what other people think.
Yeah. According to Emerson, how does society affect people's values?
I think he believes that it affects people's values because it kind of removes the individual's uniqueness, and he encourages conformity throughout it.
I think he means it by society brings people down from their true worth. Everyone has what they can do, but the society brings them a guy can be super smart, but the society can bring him down to thinking he's actually dumb and he plays that role.
I just think that society, how it affects people, it just brings out the best in people because they try to be a good person, even though Caden said earlier everything now today is fake and stuff like that. So I just think it brings out the best in people, and they don't show what they're truly about, and keep everything to themselves.
Yeah, because I feel when everyone's trying to be themselves and not anyone else, everything just kind of is better all around.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Under what circumstances might conformity be wise, and how might it be foolish at the same time?
I think it could be wise on one hand because people will look at you as a rule follower, and no one will pay any attention if you were to break a rule. Meaning that you're always the good kid, and no one would ever think anything bad of you if you did something wrong. And it could be foolish because some of the rules and laws that are made are not very helpful and could ruin any set of plans in the future. That meaning that some laws today are not very helpful to people and just bring people down and
Yeah, that's true because some rules and laws are good sometimes, but also breaking the law to do something good.
Now and back then.
Yeah, because if there's a law that stops you from doing something good, I think you should break that law to do the good thing because overall you should just be a good person.
Back then when people broke a law, they would like hang them and they would like die like within that day. But like now it's just like you get a ticket or like you go to court, so like it's not as harsh. But like I don't think it shouldn't have been like that back then. Like someone just got hung for like making a mistake. Like I don't think it should.
There were so many different
like
things.
Slavery is kind of because someone would like break the law against slavery and like do the right thing, but you could be hung,
whipped.
And all that.
So that's one of those things that's foolish because you shouldn't follow that law of slavery.
That's just why like when we talk about like society, how it like doesn't or brings out the best in people, because everyone like tried to keep to themselves because they knew if they like showed their like true self and like people didn't like it, and if like they did that and people didn't like it, like they could have potential to, like be killed, or even like anything bad could like happen to them. So they just wanted to like avoid it.
Even like what you said, like if your master, like your slave owner, didn't like what you said, you could be whipped for it.
You could be whipped. And if you're like sick and like actually can't work, you'll still be whipped. They'll get you more sick.
They expect you to work like no matter what happens to you.
What is human trafficking and how does it?
I think it's a broad topic, but I think overall human trafficking involves the use of like force and fraud, and like it's just they're trying to obtain some sort of labor by getting someone to work for them like forcefully.
I think this like kind of brings up slavery because how it's like talks about like how people were like getting whipped and stuff, and like when they're like their masters were like hurting them and a lot of stuff like that. But it still like happens today.
It's a big thing today.
No, human trafficking is like the modern day slavery.
I've heard that. It's a lot of. It's just.
How is human trafficking like slavery, like the modern day slavery?
I think, like when you say how did they keep slaves from like fighting back, I think, they kept them. They would punish them first of all. That's the big thing. And then they would keep them ignorant, and they punished them in so many different ways too.
I think it's an extreme form of labor exploitation, where like women, men, and children are recruited and obtained, and then the forced to labor against their will through force, fraud, or coercion. Like, meaning like it could be anyone that like would be like used to like work and like do like slaves did, like farmed and like.
The only difference, I think, between human trafficking and slavery is they used to, like, buy the slaves. Like,
like the auction.
Now they forcefully take you.
Like, kids, women, and
even in,
slavery.
like, red public, too. They'll just take them.
They'll just take them, and that's, like, a huge thing.
Yeah.
But human trafficking and slavery are, like, kind of the same, because human trafficking can be, like, a sexual act, too. And in slavery, if it was a girl, they could, like, just rape them. And they wouldn't, like, do anything.
I think it was good that you compared them, because it's showing how, because like you said, it's the modern day slavery. I think it's showing how it kind of evolved over time and it turned into human trafficking.
It's kind of like,
because you used to have to pay for your slaves.
It's like not as much, but it's still like not worse. I don't want to say worse, but like
because
it's still just as bad, because like they take like little kids, little girls.
And it broke up families too a lot. And like made people made like parents or like parents like were getting their kids taken away and like never knew if they were gonna see them again, which was probably a hard thing to deal with.
What do you guys think, like, overall, out of all the punishments there were, like, what do you think the most common one was back then?
I think whipping.
When in the movie when I forgot her name, but when the girl was like tied to the pole. And,
wasn't that the girl that was sleeping with the slave master?
The guy made Frederick Douglass like whip her and stuff. Like I thought, that part
was like torturing two people.
That's definitely the worst.
Yeah.
Like, it like definitely hurts a lot, but then you also have to go back to the fields right after that and go work.
Imagine how like Frederick Douglass felt whipping his friend, and it probably just didn't feel good.
After like a lot of time doing that, really like. I feel like it really hurts you on the inside, and like it's just like a bad thing that people did to people.
Imagine if you saw me just getting whipped for not working as hard because I'm like tired or sick.
And then what he did to Frederick, that'd be like making one of us whip you.
That would make you scared and like.
And there's nothing like they could do to stop it, because then the whites would just shoot him or like whip them too.
Yeah.
No, the punishments is how they kept the slaves from like fighting back. That's because they kept them ignorant by not letting them know how to read or know their families.
Yeah.
Or
So like they
know
wouldn't be able to know anything. So like the only thing they would know is just like how to work for
how to
them.
work.
Yeah.
And they always thought like they didn't think it was right, but like they didn't know any other freedom. They didn't know how to like a white man lives.
Like in like the Huck Finn movie, like Huck had to like teach Jim like how to read and write. Like he didn't know anything. That's why they're like good friends and
that was
stuff.
like a privilege to them, which it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Everyone
Because
should
remember when they were
know-
reading the poster, and he
Yeah.
was like, "What does that say?" Because he couldn't read it.
Yeah.
Everyone should know their birthdays, how to read, how to
Mhm.
spell their own name.
Yeah.
Since you brought that up, what do you guys think? Like, why do you guys think the big reason they kept slaves from learning how to read and write was, and even knowing their own birthdays?
I think
Are you
they
kidding?
did that to keep them ignorant, for they wouldn't fight back, for they wouldn't think they can have freedom, because they don't really know what like freedom is, because they don't know how to.
It would have
write
made
or
them
read.
smarter.
Yeah.
And
I think like their masters like wanted them to like feel like bad about themselves and like feel like they're nothing and not like a normal
Make them
human.
feel like property.
Yeah.
he didn't want them to feel like a normal human.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, so that's all like they would know is just like how to work for him and like
Yeah. If they learned how to read and write, they probably more of them would have escaped because
yeah.
they're smarter.
How can an ideal society be created if people differ in their definition of one?
Idealism is a direct contrast to the restriction of the age of reason that preceded the transcendentalism movement. What do you think about that?
I just you said it perfectly. Like I think that like there was a big restriction on a lot of the reasoning back then. Like, and they wouldn't really tell them why. It was just they would restrict them from doing so many things, and the slaves couldn't do anything about it at all.
Yeah, like everyone like thought of society differently. So like people had different views on it. So and that like you said, it like contrasted to the restriction in the age of reason, like meaning like people thought like they only thought different things and like no one wanted to believe in each other and like stuff like that.
Transcendentalism focuses on the development of the individuals, and how would you express your individuality and thoughts and actions?
I think you need to speak up for yourself, even though it could be like if you're doubting yourself or like a person next to you might not believe the same thing. You should still stick up for what you believe in because you have the right.
Yeah, that's the big idea of
that.
individualism.
I think like in a way like I agree with Caden like that you should speak up, but it could also like end up hurting you like if the other person has like stuff on you and they're like able to like force you to do things and like
Yeah, that's like the bad part though.
Yeah.
of
like bad
freedom
echoes of your
speech
answer.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So you should watch what you say, but you should also speak what you believe in. And
Yeah,
not-
don't be scared to keep it in because
Yeah.
keeping it in doesn't do any good.
because everyone like has like their own thoughts and like things they want to do, but like now especially like nowadays like everyone just like keeps it to themselves and stuff, which like in the long run is like hurting them, like, I think. How is human trafficking like slavery?
Like we said at the beginning of the thing, it's like slavery because of how like bad it is. Like
Yeah.
it breaks up families. Girls get raped. Guys can
Yeah.
get raped.
They just do the same thing. Like slaves would be caught and forced at labor, and so are kids nowadays.
They force
and
them
the
to
other
work
people.
without any pay, without any like
Yeah.
say in what they do.
Yeah.
And human trafficking, they steal them from like families, and they definitely
Yeah.
they get beat. Probably not as bad as slavery, but like if they don't want to work, they definitely get starved or get beat.
I think that like also relates to like the other question you're talking about, like the transcendentalism focuses on like the development of people and like how do we express our individuality and thoughts and actions, because like we said, like if you speak up, like people may like hurt you and stuff, and like that's what happened like when slavery was a big thing. So like I think that all kind of connects, which is like kind of cool.
It's a easy topic to like compare and contrast because of how similar they are.
What do you
Nowadays.
guys rate the book 12 Years a Slave?
Like 1 to 10.
Yeah.
If I
1
had
to 10.
If I had to give it 1 to 10, I'd give probably the topic overall 9. I'd give it
Yeah,
because
I
it's
would
just interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I actually
I
really
would give
like
it like
the movie.
an 8. I liked like the book was a little. I don't know, cause like it's like
It's the
it
movie.
tells
The book
me
is-
about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the movie like gave me like a better understanding of like what the book was about.
Yeah.
So
The movie grossed me out.
yeah, it was
I don't
very.
like
It was
it.
really
If
The
sad.
we
whipping
watched,
scene
we
was
missed like big parts of the
gruesome.
movie.
Yeah.
But if we would have watched the whole thing, I don't know if I could have. I don't like the
Yeah.
whippings and all that.
Yeah.
It's very like teaches you about how it is though, because like it
'Cause,
doesn't
yeah.
hold back on anything like. the
Because
Disney
slavery was
parts.
big back then, and then now it's just showing us nowadays when it's not as big. But I mean, it's still a thing like human trafficking. It's just showing us what it was like.
Yeah.
And people like don't think slavery exists now, but it's called human trafficking.
All right. I think we're gonna wrap up there. We had a good discussion
Yep.
about our freedom unit, and that's our LitCast.